Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is the MacVoices update for August 2023. It's the end of August already. It's hard to believe, but we're headed into fall, and I wanted to give you a quick update on some things that have been changing with MacVoices and also give you the results of one of our recent projects. So first up is just the production that you're seeing from MacVoices, not the video production this time, but the write-ups of the shows. I've been experimenting with Auphonic and the AI-generated descriptions and keywords and chapterizing that it gives you. Chapters are something new for MacVoices, especially for the audio show. So if you aren't used to using chapters, you might want to check that out if your podcast player supports it. I know Overcast does. Obviously, Apple's Podcast does. There's some others out there as well. So check those out. It may help you bounce around through the show a little bit easier, or you may just prefer to let the show run as is. I'd love to hear what your reactions are to that, because sometimes I agree with the chapters that they create, sometimes I don't. Once in a while, I will eliminate something that just seems completely extraneous as far as a highlight in the chapters. But I'm really interested to see what you think. The descriptions are another thing. In fact, I don't think I've done it yet, that I've taken one whole description as provided by the large language model. I said AI earlier, sorry. The large language model, and used it just as is. I usually rewrite it, tweak it just a little bit, but it's been a great exercise in learning just where some of these tools can help you get started and give you a feel for what the content is, even if you aren't taking notes or haven't gone through it. So it's one of those times that I would encourage you to play with any of the large language models that are out there. ChatGPT, the ones built into Bing, all the others as well. And again, what I've been using is Auphonic. It is specifically designed for podcasts to provide all the extra collateral that we try to deliver to you. One last place that I'm using it is for keywords. It is doing a great job, I think, of pulling out keywords and key phrases better than I was doing before. And so hopefully that's leading to a little more discovery as things go along. So by all means, check it out. If you haven't been paying attention to the show notes or to the write-ups of the sessions, it's worth taking a look at. The other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is that we've completed the 2023 MacVoices social media survey. I've done this a couple times in the past. I skipped over it the last couple years, but as we've seen so many things in the social media landscape change, I wanted to get a better feeling for who's using what, who's favoring what, and therefore where some of my efforts should be directed to helping promote MacVoices and make you aware of it. And as you've probably heard me say a dozen times over, my objective is to promote the show and to be where you are, not demanding that you come to service A or service B because that's the one I prefer. So I try to spread it out over most of the social media services, but once in a while that can get a little burdensome. So I wanted to see who's using what. I didn't ask for why. This is a very unscientific survey, and I absolutely did not capture any information for you. So you were responding completely anonymously, which is exactly what I wanted. So here are the results of the social media survey. Just a few thoughts as we look across and see who's using what. YouTube probably shouldn't be a big surprise, since that's where I publish the video version of MacVoices, and that's what gets embedded in our website. So that probably is not a big surprise. Mastodon coming in second, though, really honestly was. I think it's obvious that Mastodon probably at this point has a little more tech-savvy audience, and so it makes sense that that's what we would see there. But Twitter is not falling very far behind as of this moment, in spite of all the people who claim they have quit Twitter or are going to quit Twitter. I have to wonder if some of you have gone back to Twitter just because it has not crashed and burned quite like everybody thought it might. And there are those people who, and I respect this, who for whatever reason, they don't like Elon Musk or they don't agree with what he's been doing. have decided to leave it, that's fine. But I just get the impression that there are still a lot of people there, and it's still a very viable place to have discussions and distribute information. Facebook is next, which really surprised me how far behind it is Mastodon. Again, same situation. Facebook has its own problems with perception, and a lot of folks just don't care to be there. That's fine. It's still very strong. I do not do anything with MacVoices yet on Discord, and this indicates that I probably should be. So that may be something that gets put on the agenda for the future. Slack obviously is something that seems to be equally popular to Discord. That also, I'm not sure if that's coming, or at least part of that is coming from our MacVoices Slack partners. And in case you don't know, yes, we have a Slack. It is for MacVoices patrons only, so if you want to be part of that Slack, all you have to do is become a Patreon contributor at any level, and you get access. I know that there are a number of people, though, who are Patreon supporters, and we'll get to that later, but thank you very much, who are not on the MacVoices Slack. So if, for whatever reason, if your invitation didn't get there, or you just haven't decided to take advantage of it and need a new invitation, please drop me an email at chuck@macvoices.com. We'll make sure you get signed up and can participate in the Slack. Instagram, again, is falling behind things a little bit, but it is also a very viable platform. LinkedIn, equal to Instagram, and again, not very far behind some of the others. Interesting thing is that I get at least as much interaction, sometimes more, on LinkedIn than I do on any of the other social media services. I'm not sure if it's because we do have of course, we're an enthusiast focused podcast, but also, especially with MacVoices Live, we'll touch on some of the business topics, and I have to wonder if that maybe contributes to it. Whatever, I'm happy with it. Threads is now only a few weeks old. We've talked about that on the show several times, but it appears to have a pretty decent adoption rate at this point. Little surprised that it's that far behind Instagram, but you just never know what's going to appeal to people. And now that they finally have released a web interface, I would think that would tend to jump, because I know a lot of people who prefer to do their social media work on their laptop during the day as opposed to carrying around their phone and try to interact there. The next two up are T2 and Blue Sky, and that really surprised me that there are not more people using these two. The only thing I can figure is that because the invitations are limited and it's not just a sign up and get right in automatically, but as much as people seem to be dissatisfied with Twitter and we're looking for a more Twitter-like experience, I would have thought these two would have been more heavily adopted. Apparently not. So we shall see. The last two, again, are not exactly a surprise. Micro.blog is a very specialized kind of social network. I really like Micro.blog. We've had Gene McDonald and Manton Reese on the show a couple times to talk about it. We will have them back again. But it is a bit more of a community that is focused on just the way it likes itself and its interaction. So it's not been adopted by brands nearly as much. It's not been adopted by some of the commercial operations. And that may be why it's not as widely used, but also why it has such a passionate set of users. So it's one that, and it is a pay for as well, unlike any of the others. So if you're looking for something a little bit different, I would encourage you to go and give it a shot. I think you'll be very pleased with the quality of interaction there. SoundCloud, again, not exactly a surprise. I published the audio version on SoundCloud. SoundCloud is not known necessarily for being a social network, so I found it interesting that that some people are using it and viewed it that way, even though I included it in the survey. But it's a place to go. I know some podcasts are hosted there, and several others host or publish there. So it's a great place to go for audio. It's probably a little more music oriented than podcast oriented or information oriented, but it's still worth a look for you. Then we had the folks who answered in the other category. And this was very interesting. I did not really consider Flipboard a social media platform, but that's where I publish MacVoices magazine. And I can't say that I've had a huge amount of interaction there. I've had plenty of views, and we have a decent following as far as just people viewing and copying things over to their own magazine or giving thumbs up to the articles. But I just didn't think of it as a social media platform. But some of you did, and so thank you. I hope you're enjoying MacVoices magazine and everything else that Flipboard offers. Patreon's another that I guess technically, if you are a patron, there are some social media functions, but I personally don't think of it as a social media platform. So I may start to try to consider posting a few more things there. Right now, the main reason to post on Patreon is to notify you of any significant changes in MacVoices and to provide access to the MacVoices After Dark feed. So just interesting, very interesting. PixelFed, I had no idea what PixelFed was. I did have to go and look it up. It is a social media that seems to be directed at sharing graphics and photos. So very interesting. I guess, again, it shouldn't be a surprise since digital photography is usually covered pretty heavily in MacVoices that we might have some people that are participating over there. But it's frankly one that I'm not on and probably don't plan to be on because I'm not sure that MacVoices really fits the model of that social network. And last is Post. I had heard about Post. It seems to be a little bit more news-oriented content sharing social media. But again, I don't think the MacVoices model really fits it in spite of the fact that we are informative. But if you are using Post and would like to elaborate a little bit on why you're using it or what you like about it, or if you think MacVoices should be posted there, please let me know. I'd be very, very interested to see what you have to say. So that's the MacVoices social media survey for 2023. We will be doing it again, I'm sure, probably next year as things continue to develop, and it'll be very interesting to see, how those numbers shift back and forth and what your usage is. I'm always, though, seriously interested in what you are using and what you think about social media because it's sort of one of the ways we all communicate. Email is great for one-on-one, but some of the other platforms lend for a different kind of interaction. And so if there's something you'd like to see from me that and MacVoices that we're not delivering on your particular social media platform of choice, let me know because the ideas are wide open at this point as to how we get more folks to pay attention to MacVoices. And that's the one last thing I would like to ask you, if you would, this time around. Ken Ray did a terrific piece about what supporters mean to a podcast a couple days ago, and you can go back and look that up if you wish. But the bottom line is, and I'm going to steal some of Ken's logic, that if you see me doing house ads, things for MacVoices Live, MacVoices After Dark, the MacVoices magazine, all of those things are great and they're there to inform you, and that's what we want to do. But they don't pay the bills. So we do have advertisers. When you don't see advertisers, it means that the only support we're getting for that show or for that week is coming from our Patreon supporters. So this is a request to please consider becoming a patron of MacVoices, or at the very least, share MacVoices, give it a thumbs up, give it a like on social media, take it to your user group, and use it as a basis for a meeting. Anything that you can do to help promote the show, I greatly, greatly appreciate, because there are bills to pay. That's just the reality of things. And if you don't see advertisers, it means that we're in the red for that particular week. So with that, this month's support report, since we are talking about Patreon, at Platinum we did not have anyone, but at Gold we had Web B, David G, Robert G, Tim G, and Frank P. At Silver we had Baz, Craig A, Eric B, Eric C, Bruce E, Cletus H, Barry M, Chuck P, George R, Andrea S, Daniel S. And at bronze, we had Max C, Tom C, Brian F, Craig A, Craig H, Clinton M, John M, and Prop P. And once again, thank you to all the folks who are MacVoices patrons. We hope we are delivering the information that you want to hear. If not, please let us know what you would like to hear more of or less of. We will do our best to deliver it. Obviously, we can't do everything that everyone wants, but we try to address as many wishes as possible. And one more time, these are the folks who really are bringing you MacVoices, especially on the weeks when we don't have advertisers. So recognize them. Their names are listed in the credits of every single MacVoices live show for the month. And that's how you get your name there. But that's how we also want to recognize and express to them how much we appreciate their support. So that's the update for August 2023. I can't believe it's already heading into September. If you have anything to say about the show, have suggestions for guests or topics, please drop me an email at chuck@macvoices.com. If it suits your working and sleeping habits, join MacVoices live on YouTube on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, whatever time that is, wherever you are, at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. Or if you are asleep or working at that time, we get it. It's, time zone thing is always tough, but the shows do end up in the feeds just a little bit later and lightly edited and broken up into more manageable pieces. But the live show is always a whole lot of fun because we get to have the interaction live with the audience and the whole panel. So if you are so inclined, please add that to your calendar. I'll be back next month with another update, but I'll be back real soon with a new edition of MacVoices. As always, thanks for watching.
Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.